Hey everybody. I'm trying out music on the phone so I don't have to deal with the old laptop. And hi Facebook. Alright, so we're going to start with a beginner belly dance lesson today. Our freebie. So you get this lovely belly shot while I adjust this camera a little. Good morning also. You can hear my morning voice. Okay. So I do not ever normally want to get up this early. This is not Samantha time. I'm doing this for all of you. And because my week was busy. So neither 6 p.m. on Monday or 6 p.m. on Tuesday was going to work. So here I am. We're going to start with... Oh my goodness, it's moving so slow. All right, we're going to start with how to shimmy, which is like one of the most basic moves that you need to layer on top of every other move in belly dance. And it's a really good way to warm up. It's how we warm up in my classes in person and in my online programs. So first of all, understanding how to do that is a pretty interesting skill. First, we want to lengthen the low back and pull the pelvis under. So you'll feel kind of a lift in the upper abdominals. We want to keep released here because we want that shaking, right? And whether you're super tiny or have something to jiggle, you can still make waves happen. You just have to shimmy harder if you don't have anything to jiggle. So shimmying, for my purposes, comes from mostly knee action. There is a little bit of a hip shimmy that some people do, which is just little twists, right? But to get the full body shaking, rolling, gyrating action, we want to use the knees and we want to relax while we do this activity. So this is a little counterintuitive because you're also holding your spine in a different position than what you're used to, which is your natural arch in your low back, right? So first you want to figure out just how to knee pedal as fast as possible. So knee pedaling is front and back, just like bicycle pedaling, right? One side, the other side. And that's going to take you some time to learn how to do faster and faster until you can go really fast, tiny little knee pedals. And as you speed up, they're going to get smaller. So don't expect to try to keep them super big and still go fast. If you do that, obviously you can see I look all crazy, right? That's not going to create that shimmy look that you want. So you're going to want to first keep your feet close together. You're going to let your toes turn out to the natural rotation that you have. Some people are very parallel. I'm not, especially because of ballet, so I'm very rotated. So my natural position is more here. And you want to find whatever's comfortable. And then you want to start finding that knee pedal. And while you're finding that knee pedal, you're going to also begin lifting the abdominals in up here a little bit so that you can lengthen the spine. And you want to press the walls with open arms. So don't close your armpits. Keep a little breath between you and your arms. Not perfectly straight, right? Just soft. And then you're going to speed up a little bit and a little bit more and a little bit more until you find your full shimmy. Some people get a little stuck in the thighs. They're really tight. They're squeezing hard. You got to relax through so you can get some loosening. Some people shift their weight back and they try to soften their knees back too much, and then it becomes this, right? It's just a tail wiggle. And then they get here and they try to do it and it becomes a hip twist. So get your weight forward a little bit. It's easier to find that knee pedal with your weight more in your toes, right? Now I'm doing it to an extreme right now so that you can see that my weight is forward. Obviously, I don't really need to do that fully. That's just to explain, right? So once you find that, you're going to shimmy. And we're just going to do this for a whole song. So whether you're the person that's going slow pedals and still figuring out how to speed up, or you're the person who's got a full shimmy and is ready to warm up with it, doesn't matter. We're going to do that together and we're going to layer some arm movements over top. If you're the person still slow pedaling and you feel comfortable adding the arms, go for it, right? It takes practice and time to learn all this though. So if you're not comfortable with that yet, you can just press the walls and keep working on the shimmy the whole song, right? I'm gonna go into options for next level and next level and next level throughout. So now that we've tried this out, you guys will get a pause first. So find your press the walls, start those knee pedals, shimmy, shimmy. Oh, there's a comment. Tagging a friend. I love it. Thank you. And scoop, scoop. This is a snake arm. So you go elbow to wrist, finger scoop, and then lower. Elbow to wrist, scoop, and lower. Elbow to wrist, scoop, and lower. Elbow to wrist, scoop, and lower. Now pass it back and forth. So basically as one hand drops, the elbow on the other side is starting to lift. Again, if this is too much, just keep working on the shimmy. And make it shake. Up. And halo, eyes, chest, hips. Up. Halo, eyes, chest, hips. Press the walls. Super shimmy. Try to go as fast as you can. And as loose as you can. Let it wiggle everywhere. And now you're gonna go up and waterfall scoops down and up, waterfall, toss your hair, try two things at once, because there's always more to add in belly dance. It's like the challenge of trying to move every part at once in a different way. Try playing with your own arms. You gotta learn to have fun with it over top. It should be fun. Oh, one leg shimmies over one side and other side. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes this can help you loosen up if you're feeling like you're squeezing. Back together. Up. And waterfall down. All right, let me pause the music for a moment. Next thing we're gonna go into is some isolation. So I always do this in my class for body warm-up purposes, but also because jazz style isolations are very closely related to a lot of, and hip hop style isolations are very closely related to a lot of our belly dance isolation work. And isolation work is quite a challenge when you don't have your spine and individual movements throughout the spine stretched and worked before. So it's like, let's say you went to jump and ride a bicycle, but you hadn't learned how to pedal your feet, right? So that's the idea. You haven't even done this action before. Why would we ask you to get on top of a bicycle and do that while balancing and rolling down the street? Yeah? So when we do isolations, it's all very similar. So we're going to start with a very jazz type exercise. And really we're going to start from the top and work all the way down because the spine is connected, tailbone to up in your skull, right? And if I only warm up one section of it, that area is going to get nice and loose and be able to move bigger for me over time. But the rest of me isn't, and since it's connected, that can provide limitation. So we're going to work the whole thing, even though we don't use the whole thing all the time. Now, with that being said, there are plenty of belly dance moves that incorporate hip shimmies, which is a looseness in the low spine and pelvis connection, and being able to shake back and forth, as well as chest actions at the same time as hair. And hair is controlled by top of the neck movement, right? So really truthfully, at some points when you become very skilled, you are going to be doing a lot of spinal actions, right? And really dance is the emanation. Explain it. Anyway, so where was I? Stupid annoying phone calls from scammers. So when we are doing belly dance, there's always going to be a layer of multiple actions when we become intermediate or advanced. And similar work, similar things happening. Oh, dance, right. It's all energy emanating from the core out, right? No matter what style you're doing, it's just a different stylization of that energy coming from the core out, even belly dance. So we're working this core area to get it nice and ready for big movement to grow out to our limbs. So this is super jazzy to start. And you're gonna have feet apart. You can put your hands on your hips just so they have somewhere to be. 5, 6, 7, 8. You look right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Look down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, side to side. And circle. Big long neck circle. Don't crunch in the back. So lift through the back so it lengthens. 7, 8. Ribs go right. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left. My cat Victoria is here to dance with us. She's really obsessed with the mirror. Right, left, right, left, and front, back, 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 front, back. Now front, side, back, side, front, side, back, side, other way, front, side, back, side, front, side, back, side, circle. Other way, circle. Other way, faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. Other direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to go up, down. So now you're lifting and expanding, up, down. So your rib cage opens. This is different than front, back, right? Not a lot, but a little different. Front and back is pushing forward here. Up and down is lifting and expanding and collapsing through the rib cage. Hips side to side. super jazzy. Let your tail arch. And front, back. Also, so you can understand the difference. If you've been trained in another style of dance, you've probably done hip action that was like that. Front, side, back, side. And when we get into belly dancing, it gets very confusing because the hip action is very different. Other way. All right, so our next thing is going to be going into belly dance action hips. So we're going to pull those feet back to our natural position. We're going to soften a little bit, and we're going to keep that belly pulled in and under just a little bit using these upper abs. And we're going to squeeze our side and then drop. Squeeze, drop. Squeeze, drop. Squeeze, drop. So what I'm trying to do is pull my hip into my rib cage, into me, making lots of rolls, yeah? So that's how we work on hips and belly dance, keep them looking slidey and glidey underneath us. We also never have our feet really that far apart. So we want to pull them in and under, and that gives us that glide. And then we use squeeze, 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 drop, opposite sides. It's very sharp. You should feel it in your hips. We call this a lockdown. Ha, 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 ha. It's a style of hip drop. You usually call out the side that's dropping, which is also different. If we're in jazz, we usually talk about the side that's lifting. You can hold goalpost arms. You can press the walls. You can snake arm if you've got the skill for 2 tempos at once. Or just work on those hip drops. And now we're going to go down a little, up a little. Down a little, up a little. Down a little, up a little. Keeping your tail under you. Right, I'm not sticking it out. You could do that, but it won't stay sliding, gliding in the front, see? Just looks like you're going side to side. Keeping that tail under and squeezing here is what gives us the look. Walking with it. Taking little steps. You can play with poses. Or with your hair. This style is meant to be flirty and fun, and you should explore what you feel comfortable in. And now we're going to take a little stretch, so we're going to sit in that hip, because they're probably tired now if you were holding your pelvis right. And other side. And again. And again. And then you're just going to go nice and over, touch your toes for a moment. Soften and roll up. All right, so now we're going to learn some belly work because wouldn't be belly dancing without the belly work, so we're going to understand how that functions now. There are different things we do with our bellies. One, shimmying creates a shake. So when we do other moves, like camels or flutters or pops, then it looks like double layers of action going on in the belly. So eventually you want to be able to shimmy over top of every single move that you ever learn in belly dance and really work in varying ways. Hey! With that layering of skills, right? So belly pops are a good place to start. Or basically you're pushing out and sucking in as much as you can, right? And when we do that from the side, it's easier to see kind of accent, right? You have one set of muscles that comes from their pelvis all the way up to the rib cage. It's called the rectus abdominis. It's what makes your six pack, right? And believe it or not, everyone has a six pack somewhere in here, all right? Some of us just have it covered with some stuff, and that's fine, yeah? Totally cool. That makes it easier to shake, right? And looks awesome just as much as skinny, tiny tummies look. But that muscle is really only one set of muscles. And we don't connect to it very often except for posture, right? So we lift in and squeeze in, especially if somebody says, use your core, right? And that's what we usually connect to, is that muscle. And that's what we're thinking about. We have other deeper layers like obliques and even deeper postural abdominals that we don't really access all that well and we don't use all that well, but we are more familiar with twisting, which is obliques, right? And crunching or sitting up, which is those abdominals. And we work those muscles like crazy, trying to create a certain look when we do fitness and workouts, right? And the reality is now here, we're not concerned about creating abs, right? We're concerned about using these muscles. And since we don't connect to them very often, most of us haven't sat there and thought about moving those body parts in different ways. We've done pelvic action or sit-ups, right? And so when you first start to think about this, your brain and your body haven't actually communicated in this area. And this is an interesting thing about learning movement in general. If you've never communicated with a body part in a certain way, from your brain nervous system to that muscle, right? Then you haven't really built a lot of nerve endings there because your body was like, I don't need to waste time in building blocks doing this. And now all of a sudden you're asking it to do something and it hasn't received that message before. So your brain and your nervous system actually have to process the request, right? So it's kind of like, calling the EDD. The first 100 times you call, you will not get through. Or your insurance company. And eventually one day they answer and miracles happen, right? So really that's where you're headed, is making that unknown number of phone calls and waiting for information to be processed. And the more you practice, the quicker that happens. But when you're a brand new beginner, it's not uncommon to have a lot of trouble with a movement in general for any style of dance. And this is one that's particularly challenging for a lot of people because most of us just don't sit there and think about pushing out our stomachs and sucking them in really tight. So be aware before we even focus on the exercise that you're thinking about it and trying to make it happen will eventually work. If you don't find success today, that's okay. Keep practicing and trying, and that brain is going to build some new nerve endings to those muscles, and you're going to get some strength, and you're going to learn how to do this. So, effort, A+, right? Secondly, we want to try to focus on certain areas. So we're going to pretend that we're able to isolate them. We're not able to isolate this muscle, right? It's all one connected strip. But we can accent a little more low by thinking about it, and other muscles underneath are going to assist in that area more, and we're going to feel it. And then we can go middle for our belly button area, and then we can go high, and when we go high, we can access rib cage to help us, and diaphragm, right? Now you notice when I spoke it didn't pull as big because my diaphragm controls my breathing. So when I'm using this area, if I hold my breath and suck in, it's going to actually make a bigger action. And this is where we get into belly flutters, which are high up diaphragm flutters. And those take a lot of practice too. So that's a really challenging skill. I wouldn't say that that's a beginner move, but knowing where you're headed is really important a lot of times. And knowing that this is an exercise, training-wise, that's going to get you there is important to have in mind. So we're basically going to hold our arms nice and tall right here so they're out of the way, or you can do the two hands behind the head. I'm taking a nap at the beach, right? I like to do that to hold my hair out of the way because I get hot and sweaty from my hair. And our goal is truthfully going to be push out as much as you can and suck in as hard as you can for each pulse, right? And they're a little faster, so sometimes you won't be able to keep up super well, and that's okay. Just let yourself flounder through those moments. All right. 6, 7, 8, starting low. Push out, suck in. Push out, suck in. Push out. You can put your hand on your belly so you can feel yourself work. And sometimes that feedback helps you access it quicker. Or think about pushing out the knot on your coin belt. And in, out, and in, out, and in, middle, out, and in, out, or put your belly on there and push. You can also lay on the floor and do this exercise with a book on your belly and get like weightlifting going. Out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, high, out. I can't call this one and do it because breathing. Out. Middle, out, in, 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 low, out, in. Like I said, we can't truly isolate it, but we can accent the area we're thinking about. And then once we've gotten the hang of that, now we've got an idea of where these body parts are, we're going to go into camels. So camels are a roll down the belly. And it's okay to start with your back. I'm going to stop the music for a minute and use it to help you get the rolling idea. And your pelvis is always going to be a little bit of this action. And your back is always going to be a little bit of the action, no matter what, because muscles are connected to bones, and bones move when they're connected to muscles. That's how we walk, right? That's how we go do anything, right? So it's going to happen a little, but our goal is to make it isolated to the belly muscles themselves, right? So I'm going to work on lift, push out, and then as I suck in the belly, roll down to the release of the pelvis. So I lift, chest, push out, suck in, and roll down as I release the pelvis. I have a little bit of a low back injury, so when I hit my low area, sometimes I have a hard time coordinating it. So if you see like me stick there for a second and then release, that's why. You're not supposed to copy that, all right? That's just me with a broken body. So Here we go. Up, push out, suck in, roll back, release. And of course, if you've recently eaten or anything, sometimes you might hear things shift in there. You might feel them shift in there. This is normal. Your body goes, why are you moving my belly? And it moves stuff around. So hopefully you don't hear anything weird come from it. Anyway, you lift up, push out as big as you can, and then suck in as you roll down. We also have reverse camel, which you don't see used as often in performance and whatnot, but at least in my experience from what I've seen out there, it seems to be the move that most people are not liking or using right now. But reverse camel is still really important and useful to get certain actions in the opposite direction. So since we've done a camel in the downward direction, we also want to work on that reverse camel. And the reverse is simply the opposite action. So we're going to tuck the pelvis, suck in, and then as we roll up, we push out and go to the lift, right? Tuck, suck in, push out as you roll up. The goal is to see a line move down the belly and up the belly, which is basically your fold that you're creating when you suck and pull, right? Or suck and push, right? So regular camel, I'm gonna lift, push out, and then suck in as I roll down, and it becomes a smooth action. That's the goal, is to make it a smooth action, right? And then reverse, I'm gonna tuck, suck in, and push out as I roll up. Tuck, suck in, push out as I roll up. Again, I'm using a lot of back right now, but the goal would be to get to the point where you can do it with very minimal back action. And just a little pelvic action. And there's a reason for that. Once you start shimmying, it's very hard to be doing a ton of other work, right? So if I want to be able to shimmy and roll, I've got to have some more control over that belly itself and be able to work those muscles, right? And then I can do both layers at once. It's a little easier. So now that we understand the camel, we're going to do a couple to music, starting slow and then moving into faster. Six, seven, plant your right toe. Up, push out, roll down. And up, push out, roll down. Up, push out, roll and down. Up, push out, suck in while you roll down. Try it faster. Up and roll. Up and roll. Up and roll. Up and roll. Change sides. Up and roll. Up and roll. Up and roll. Up, roll, up, roll. Change sides. Reverse. Tuck, suck in, roll up. Tuck, suck in, roll up as you push out. Tuck, suck in, roll up as you push out. Tuck, suck in, roll up. A little faster. Tuck, roll up. 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 Tuck, reverse, or regular camel, sorry. Try moving your arms. You can also make the camel pose. We also have down to up as an option. Down to up. And it's basically finding that snake action, right? All right, so now we're gonna go into hip drops. I'm just checking my time. All right, so hip drops. Single-sided with a beveled foot. Different than lockdown, right? But similar idea. You're gonna bevel that foot. You're gonna squeeze and drop. Like your hip is hitting the drum. Still using soft knees. I'm gonna frame my body. Blade hand around the booty, because that's the part we're accenting. And up here, blade hand reaching up. And flatten that spine just like we did before. So we're keeping that pelvis under a little bit. And then we squeeze in and drop. Squeeze in and drop. Try it faster. Squeeze, drop. 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 Squeeze, and double time it. Squeeze, drop. Squeeze, drop. Squeeze, drop. Ha, ha. Keep your chest lifted so it's isolated away and you're not doing things like that, right? Just the hip. Step back, swipe your booty around, step forward, pull it into bevel. 6, 7, 8, we go. Squeeze, drop. Squeeze, drop. Squeeze, drop. And squeeze, drop. 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 Ha, ha. And step back, use your booty, swing it around. All right, so those are hip drops. We also do those. So as we get more advanced, we'll do double drops, double squeeze, double drops, start to get practice and strength. We'll do triples. We'll do 4s. We'll do bounces with the pelvic circle or the other direction, and we start to practice all sorts of actions, right, in different directions and layering. And that's when you get more to intermediate and advanced skill levels, right? So most of the moves we've been learning are stationary. There are a few more moves that are stationary, which means we're in one spot. But a lot of these moves can also travel, such as the lockdown. We did it in place, and then we traveled it, right? And our shimmy has a travel, which we call a choo-choo shimmy. And that's basically the fastest lockdowns you've ever done while you glide and float because you're taking tiny little steps. If you've ever done ballet, it looks like a bourrée, but with with hips, right? So it's kind of the opposite of what you are supposed to do there. In bull raise, we're supposed to flutter the knees, right? Flutter the knees. No action through the hips is your goal, right? Here, I'm fluttering the knees, but I want the hips to shake in response to it. So it's a very different action, but both are lifted and both are very floaty. Both are basically upper body place holds, right? It doesn't go up and down. It floats and glides like the ghost in the sheet. So that is the goal with that choo-choo shimmy. We're not going to go into how to do that one today. I just want to explain that there are a lot of traveling moves. And so we're going to learn a side step. Side step is one of the easiest traveling moves from my perspective, other than down up camels, which are a traveling camel, right? Or walking through those camels. We also have 3-4 shimmies, which are 3 hip shimmies over top of 4 rocks that kind of go in a grapevine action. We also have front back step or push, which is very similar to the side step, but kind of complicated because the arch and tuck of the pelvis is a little harder. And then we have Hagala walks, which there are variations on all across the board, but in general, it's a walk that has a specific 1, 2, 3 hip action. Yeah, I think Suhaila teaches it like lifted on the finish, and that she has like her own style. There's a few people who just have their own variations, and you'll notice as you get more involved in belly dance world and culture, which is mostly Eastern cultures, right? From Arabic to Armenian to Chinese. So you have a lot of Russian, Ukrainian belly dancers. You have a lot of Armenian dancers. You have Arabic, Egyptian, Iranian, Persian dancers. And then you also have Chinese and belly dance in those Eastern cultures as well. So we see it across the board in the East. Obviously Egypt is in Africa, so you also get sometimes some African infused in there, which is pretty cool. And yeah, so once you get more into the culture of it, you'll notice that because it's such a solo art form a lot of times, that different dancers just develop their own unique way of doing things. It's all based on the same ideas and the same 5,000-year-old technique out of Egypt, which was originally designed for birthing practices. So we have like figure eights, which are similar to the sway you need to use when you dance the baby down during labor and things like that. Obviously, camels are pretty useful, right? And that belly action is useful. And there's also, I've learned recently from a friend who just had a baby, a method for knitting the belly muscles back together by pulling in. And it's very similar to what we do in belly dance, so can't say that maybe it's also a postpartum dance form, which is cool. And yeah, so you'll see these different styles start to come out. One person's Hagala is a little different than another's. Depends on who you trained with. Like I learned mine from Layla, and so I have that very specific technique that she taught back in the day. My 3-4 shimmy is from Isis more, who calls it 4-step because she learned it in France. And so there's also variations on the terminology. So we just get a lot of varying happening, and the cool thing is that you can take these steps and make them unique to your body. Everybody's hip and pelvis connection is different. So that's fun about being an artist in belly dance, is that your body indicates how the movement is going to happen for you. And while it's all similar, it's also all unique. So I won't waste any more time with that discussion right now. We'll go into side step. So side step, first and foremost, let's just get how the foot and body work before we add any layers of shimmy. So I'm going to take my right foot and I'm going to step out and I'm going to step down over it. So this has a little bit of a down action. My weight is over this side, yeah? Which, to indicate where my weight is, I always will know because of where my rib cage is, right? So when someone stands center, their sternum and rib cage is centered over. If they shift to one side, they shift their sternum and rib cage over that side or over that side. So this is an action where you're taking the weight off center and putting it with your travel direction. Now at the same time as I do that, I'm sinking down, and this gives me stabilization on this leg so that I can pull the hip up and in, the trailing hip, right? That squeeze the pelvis into my rib cage action. This is what is the basic, most important thing to understand about hip action for belly dance, right? Hip action for jazz, it's very much like if you had a cattail, right? And you were shaking it out here and using that tail side to side. Belly dance is very internal control, using all these abdominal muscles. And what it appears is that I'm doing is, my grammar was great there. What it appears I'm doing is pushing with my foot, right? But I'm actually not. That's an action that happens because of the squeeze and lift, right? And I'm dragging the toe. But ultimately, the control of this is coming from the squeeze. That's what I want to find, is that ability to use the musculature. Now, even though my sternum and body are shifted over this leg, I want to squeeze this direction for that. So I've seen some people get a little confused by this, and they start going like that, and they're leaning out this way. Just because I'm traveling this way and putting my weight over it doesn't mean that I'm taking my body on a diagonal axis. Right? There's a difference. I'm still very perpendicular to the floor. I've just shifted over physically all of me, right? And that's how the weight gets over my foot. And then I'm going to squeeze, and then I'm going to step together. And this actually looks a little bit like I'm going up, down, because this leg is down the whole time, but this squeeze gives me a little lift on this side and a straight leg here. And then when I bring it in, everything settles down, right? So you're gonna feel like you're going up in this direction, even though your weight and body are down on this side. We're gonna pose the arms in the way we're traveling. So we have a blade hand going out and a blade hand underneath. Some women who have a nice amount of cleavage like lift it up and use it as a prop. Some people like to kind of like, oh, koi belly, right? And, this is also up to you, but if you were working in a troupe, you would have pretty clean hands and pretty clean arm position. If you're soloing, there's also like a reach action that can happen with the hand as you come down and together, press and come down and together, press and come down and together, press and squeeze and come down and together, all right? So let's try that on this side all together. We go press and squeeze, down and together, 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 other side, press and squeeze, down and together, press and squeeze, down and together, press and squeeze, down and together, press and squeeze. Now, what my ultimate goal is to shimmy on the down and together. So I'm gonna go press and squeeze, shimmy down, press and squeeze, shimmy down. And this one's more like that hips only shimmy. My knees have to work a little to get that, right, action happening. But there's a lot of this moment, of a little bit of squeeze and the glutes to make the hips go, and less knee pedal, right? Because it's out here and it's one-sided. Da-da-da. Yeah? Trying the other way. 6, 7, 8, squeeze, shimmy down, squeeze, shimmy down, squeeze, shimmy down, squeeze, shimmy down, other side, and squeeze, shimmy down, squeeze, shimmy down, squeeze, shimmy down, squeeze, shimmy down. So that's your side step, which is a nice traveling step to work on and have. I am going to give us some music. So we'll dance this together with some music for our last little thing. And then now you have some technique to start practicing. 5, 6, 7, And you go squeeze, shimmy down. Squeeze, shimmy down. Squeeze. Other way. Squeeze. And hop. 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 Up. Hop. Now we're going to go faster. This is a good song. And we're going to go in a full circle, traveling each direction. You can do it without the shimmy if you're not ready. Just do the steps. And up, 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 up. Other way.
انت اللي شفتيني وعرفتيني واتقابلنا، على فكره ناس اسم كل يوم اللي اتكلمنا، لو رحت قلت لهم اني كنت فيهم حبيبك ما حدش هيصدقك، كله هيمشي ويسيبك، سلام مش هسلم، كلام مش هتكلمك، تلعبي على مين الاسطوره والمعلم، قمه الغباء انك تفتكري انك في بالي ولا في خيالي.
Again. Hop, down, hop, hop. Other way. 7, 8, and hop. All right. So, that was your side step. Basically today we covered basics of your shimmy, right? Arms, snake arms, and arm motions. Also, just to cover one thing that I didn't mention in detail, ring finger and middle finger, hold them together so that when you scoop with those, yeah? So, we have shimmies, action of the arms, lockdowns and isolations, which are really important to just do so that you get stretched and moved. And then some of these become moves that we work on, right? Like that up down is really called African in belly dance. Hip actions, lockdowns, traveling lockdowns. We talked about a choo-choo shimmy, but we didn't go over how to do it. Belly work, so pull in, pull out, sucking, camel and reverse camel. How a flutter, the goal that is going to happen here, works, right? And then our side steps. So a lot of things in one class. Not all of this should come into you right away. If it does, then you've taken classes before, right? And you're not a beginner, and that's cool. Or you have some natural skill, also cool, right? But that's not going to be the case for most of us. Most of us are going to get one or two of these moves as we're just beginning to learn how to do this. And as we practice and get better, the rest of them start to come into play and we get better at it. So keep in mind always, you're a beginner dancer, you're not expected to have it perfect. People go to classes to learn, not to already know how to do. And this is the perfect time to hide out at home so that you can feel more comfortable when you come into life classes and not feel like you have to hide away because you're embarrassed about making mistakes, right? Very common thing in beginner dance, and also a sad scenario that pushes people away from learning something they've always wanted to learn. So step into it, be brave, and if you're interested in learning more, I also have intermediate belly dance as part of my monthly membership, and we learn choreographies. Right now the intermediate class is learning how to use swords and balance work, right? And the beginner class is working on a fusion piece, which is a Latin fusion piece. So lots of fun stuff happening there on Zoom and on live feeds with the private membership. I also have beginner and intermediate ballroom options, including some salsa and swing steps, and slow waltz, slow foxtrot, all the basics of ballroom there. For social dance purposes, so if you want to go in on a cruise someday in a year or so, if you're going to a wedding or going to one on Zoom now. Maybe you want to be able to dance when people are watching you on cameras instead of being able to hide in the back corner or something like that. So, you know, skills to learn. And we have beginner and intermediate ballet. We have floor bar. I have the Triple S workout, which is cross training for dancers essentially. Triple S workout is basically like P90 meets physical therapy, meets yoga and Pilates, and group training, like group personal training exercises. So a lot of it is centered on working muscles that dancers don't work enough of because we overwork everything else. And then we build muscular imbalances, and we need to strength train those opposite muscles to avoid injuries. So that is really what the main goal behind that workout was originally, and it just is something that a lot of other people enjoy doing with me, so it's just become a fitness class, but it is definitely strength and conditioning for dancers. So that's what it was designed for. So if you're a beginner dancer, it's a good place to be because it's going to build your body into strength and agility. And even if you're a pro, I have a few pros that take the class too. You know, it's just a great way to keep your body in a healthy shape for dance, and it's very functional for in-home. So that was just an accident of luck, but very functional in-home type of workout. And then I also offer stretch and roll, which is a relaxation type class where we use myofascial therapies to care for our bodies and take a little break and massage and heal up. So there's a lot of things, really fun stuff going on. We have a couple classes almost every day. And even if you can't make the Zooms, you can always watch in the backlog of videos from months and months of classes at this point in this group. So if you want to be a part of the monthly membership, it's super affordable. It's only $20 a month. All you got to do is message me. I have donors who are scholarshipping people who are underprivileged. So if you have need and you're somebody who wants to be learning and dancing this much and you're stuck at home and don't have a job right now, and especially with unemployment coming down the pipeline changed, and who knows what they're going to do for us, you know, there's people who are willing to cover your $20 a month. So if you can't even afford that and this is something you want to be doing, reach out to me. If you want to just drop into one class once in a while, you can always go to Meetup or ClassPass. I'm a member on ClassPass as well, and you can pop into the Zoom meeting for $5. I think ClassPass charges like $5.60. They wouldn't let me set the rate at $5. So yeah, but if you go to Meetup, you can also connect with me there for individual classes and just do drop-ins. So lots of options. Hit me up. I hope you enjoyed belly dancing with me today, and I'll see you next week for the next free one.